to blockchain to enhance supply chain integrity of cannabis, a product that is seeing phenomenal growth in consumption, also as part of, which is also becoming more and more part of food products like beverages, and needs also to be controlled for authenticity, purity, and quality. With this, I finish my presentation, and I would like now to hand over to Frank, who will speak about NMR in cannabis. And I would like to thank you so far very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. If you can just hang on, because there is some questions towards the end, and I'll just address them to both you and Frank. That would be great.
Yes, we can maybe wait for, I don't know, my suggestion, wait for Frank's presentation.
Yes,
then we can do the Q&A together. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you, yes. I will stop now to share. Okay.
Yeah, you can stop sharing, and then Frank, you can share your screen. Perfect.
I'm ready to go. And I'm, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Thomas. It's always a pleasure to hear your presentations on what Bruker does and where the NMR technology is going. I thought I was frozen. Anyway, just to give a quick, I guess, a synopsis of what I do. I work for a company called Purity IQ, and I'm a technical regulatory advisor there. Some of you on the call, I think, may remember my name either in good spirit or not when I was a regulator. But I think that, you know, since I've left that, I've moved into private consultancy with respect to regulations and design of quality management systems. So over that time of work that I was developing safety and quality standards using the regulatory obligations and limits that were set in place, and also looking at private standards and the private standard process as a guide. So in that, I was one of the designers for something called the Food Safety Enhancement Program, which took HACCP and put it into federally regulated establishments, and that fortunately led to requirements that were embedded into the Safe Food for Canadians Act and regulations, and also worked in the organic regulation and standards. And it's interesting there that this was an industry-led standard that became embedded into a regulation, and that is particularly with respect to permitted substances. And so anyway, it seems that the industry is okay there, and that USDA, which is recognized Canada's equivalent, and vice versa with respect to organic certification processes. And more recently, as a private consultant, I helped design something called a gluten-free certification program, which was mentioned today. It was very nice that BRCGS is able to take this further to the next level to protect people with celiac disease and gluten sensitivity. And also, I should have just mentioned that I helped design a plant-based program with BRCGS. So that brings me to my latest, I guess, claim to fame is that I've been working on developing a standard for cannabis with Purity IQ, and it's called the Cannabis Authenticity and Purity Standard. Just a little bit on Purity IQ, that Purity IQ is a conglomeration of scientists and professionals that many of them leaders and thought leaders in industry and recognized as such, and that as a business it focuses on cutting edge genetic and chemical and metabolomic technologies and applications. And its mission is to work with industry to bring authenticated products to consumers, and and to customers, if you're not, if you're supplying to parties that are further going to add value to products that end up in the hands of consumers. So the idea here is that if you set the foundation that with transparency and that there's trust between the links in the supply chain, it doesn't matter what product it is, whether it's food or cannabis or anything else, and that we try to foster respect between professions and push out information as necessary, and when we interact with clients, that we provide certainly the appropriate level of service, which is an ethical requirement. So here are our partners. On the far right, you'll see Bruker. We've done a lot of work with Bruker, they being a leader in particularly in NMR technologies and many, many other things. And also our linkage with the Cannabis Council of Canada. And probably the biggest one and the most enduring one is the Natural Health Products Research Alliance, Dr. Stephen Newmaster, and coming up with concepts of how we can work through authenticity and how it could work better, and how it can be pushed out and marketed and monetized in the industry. So the mission today is I'm going to introduce the the Cannabis Authenticity and Purity Standard, the CAPS, and show this as an example of how to push industry-driven standards and certification to effectively manage safety, quality, and authenticity of products. And that the highlights of this hopefully highlight that there are processes that can be used to consistently provide products and and ingredients to further either consumers or further manufacturers, and that there are a lot of examples of success stories with respect to the design of management systems and their tools, and that there's new technologies on the way that can be applied novelly in novel ways similar to the NMR. So just to give you some examples of industry-driven standards, the Global Food Safety Initiative benchmark standards, you have BRC Global Standards, FSSC 22000, the list goes on. And there are tens of thousands of sites that apply these standards, and they also are audited on an annual basis. And but that is to say that I mentioned Safe Food for Canadians regulations and Food Safety Modernization Act in the U.S., and there are certainly other regulations around the country in other countries, but they have a limited scope. I would say that industry has more needs with respect to developing management systems to meet certain specifications and attributes that are required by the people they sell to, more than just what regulations are requiring. And there are other private standards that are in the safety, quality, and authenticity world, and that's where Purity IQ and the CAPS fits. I should say that the success story of having third-party audits, that having certification bodies which are essentially accredited to do certain kinds of work, either under ISO 17065 or ISO 17021, who are these certification bodies are accredited by competent authorities that around the world, like ANAB, ANSI, Standards Council of Canada, United Kingdom Accreditation Services, and the joint Australia accreditation services for Australia and New Zealand, and the list goes on. They themselves are also accredited under an overarching something called the international accreditation forum. And then you have laboratories are ISO 17025. All this to say is that there's a lot of rigor in terms of setting up these, I guess, services and tools for measuring the safety and quality and authenticity that management systems can provide. So in these, so then the common theme of this management system approach is prevention of failures before it happens. Embedded in this is because there's a requirement to review the management system, that there's the opportunity for improvement, and that these can be combined with respect to if there are regulatory safety limits that are built in that have to be achieved, or just those things which are industry attributes that are just good for business. So keys to a consistent supply of authentic ingredients. All of these standards look at suppliers and ingredient approval systems that are formalized within a facility, and that there's a testing regime, either a finished product or screening of incoming ingredients as necessary or on a risk basis. And also with respect to ongoing tracking of production and management of leading to finished product, which can be released into the supply chain to the next level. And tracking and tracing is key to keeping this authenticity going. So Thomas mentioned some failures with respect to authenticity, fraud, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong, either intentionally or unintentionally. But I think the key to this is that the levels of failures are increasing, and that the extending and stretching global sources of supplies due to COVID is made this a lot worse. People are either entering that you don't know, or that the normal supplier is no longer available or even in business. But the one thing that Thomas mentioned, and I'll reiterate it, is that food fraud in the EU has increased by 85% between 2016 and 2019. A good source for that information is called the Food Authenticity Network. You can Google that. It's a free service that provides an archive of a lot of incidents of various frauds, and they go back some time, but also it gives you some new ones. Now, I just put these the categories of failures, and some of these are more serious than others, but you know, again, some of these could be accidental, or they could be absolutely intended, which would drive them into fraud. But things that can happen with respect to fraudulent representation of products or ingredients is that safety can be compromised. We talked about allergens today. That's a really good example. Synthetics, again, had Thomas mentioned melamine, and that was actually a killer thing. Efficacy and potency in the case of things like botanicals. I say that potency, that there are some circumstances that that there is no active ingredient at all in the or no ingredient of that which is claimed on the product. And then you have things which are not necessarily fraud, but they have disappointments in consumer experience. And in the case of cannabis, that is, you know, the cannabis product you buy today is not the same as the one that you purchased the last time around. And the thing too is, you know, pirating. It was very interesting to see, and I guess now that with either the technology that's available to produce a label packaging that represents another brand, and pushing that out as being your own or somebody else's, and that this is becoming more rampant, and as the technology becomes more available to people and their willingness to use it, and of course governments to try and keep up to enforce some level of protection. I think that one also has to consider that, particularly in the case of cannabis, and I'll come back to this, is that whether it's pirating or economic fraud, that in the case of cannabis, there's still a significant black market of product which is out there and either mixed and blended or offered as wholly as something which is within the mainstream or within regulatory requirements, and it may not be. So again, Purity IQ is focused on innovation, collaboration with industries. We want to know what they do, what their needs are, what their best practices are, and create a forum to share options for mitigation and prevention. And also the fact that the authenticity and tracking foods now is becoming the next frontier, and looking at scientific standards for things like natural health products, whether botanicals, probiotics, and supplements, and the cannabis industry. And out of this, we've developed and released very recently something called the Cannabis Authenticity and Purity Standard. Now, under the CAPS, what we've done is we've taken the best approaches, or the time-honored best approaches, and that there's 2 levels of certification that are available, and that the first one is under what we call CAPS Basic Certification, which is a certification of sites. That's sites that are able to demonstrate that they have good agricultural or management practices in place, and that they can be used to deliver outcomes that for safety and quality attributes. There's a little bit of authenticity in this, but it's only with respect to the source material, whether or not it's from known or legitimate sources. The CAPS Advanced takes it to the next level, that once you have the CAPS Basic in as a prerequisite, that there's the opportunity to have product certification. This is, I should say that these are optional tiers that are available to clients should they need it, and that in the CAPS Advanced, we overlay the ability to use novel molecular diagnostic tools, and to tackle the issues that are in place with respect to ingredient and final product authenticity. And all this to say is that then this creates an umbrella where due diligence can be measured by an independent and qualified third-party certification body, and to measure the degree of application of the management system that has been designed to prevent and to mitigate risks. So in the CAPS Basic Site Certification, that I think this is essentially HACCP 101, although HACCP applies to food and cannabis is not a food, but the principles still apply. That you're looking at identifying the products that you want to make, you identify the hazards, you establish limits for those hazards, you develop a risk assessment to then see what the prevalence is of potential failure, and will your prerequisite programs, which are the kind of like the basic infrastructure of your facility, are they able to deal with these limits and these hazards? And then if not, then you have to look at preventive controls, which either eliminates the hazard or brings it down to a level which is acceptable. In the risk assessment, I think it'd be wise to look at there's a lot available with respect to fraud vulnerability assessments. And I think that that is a, kind of a good tool to look at for that. So in the case of CAPS Advanced, and I want to get into this in a little bit more detail because it's unique in terms of how management systems are designed. That information can be gathered, whether it's genomic or metabolomic information, and that's available, and it is coming soon to being able to being done at sites as opposed to in off-site laboratories, and that's something we're working on. Essentially, what happens is that under the CAPS, there's something called a global registry, which essentially benchmarks the products that are intended to be produced. It actually creates kind of like kind of a framework to establish intellectual property, and it then becomes a reference material which respects the biodiversity of cannabis and hemp cultivars, but that it can be used to look at the consistency of delivery of outcomes. So that in the case of measurement of consistency of the final product, that in the case of propagation, cultivation, and recently harvest materials, that you can look at genomic matches and metabolomic fingerprints and bring them together. And that in the case of where the genetic material is it's harder to extract or it starts to fade, that one can just go to the metabolomic fingerprint that appears in the registry, and that can be used in either ingredients or in final product. That that would be products which are manufactured, meaning extracted, concentrated, distilled, or they could be edibles. At the end of the day, that there is the ability to assign a rating for consistency, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So this is the representation of a genomic iris. We've worked with the again the Natural Health Products Research Alliance at the University of Guelph, and essentially they have a library of tens of thousands of living organisms and thousands of plants, and that plant material, and that using single nucleotide polymorphism measurement with either a probe, what's called a SNP probe, and software, that they can essentially pick out deviations between cultivars, and this essentially lays out the distinction between cultivars. So the genomic iris for one cultivar is going to look quite different from another one, and this can be measured quite easily, again using software. And essentially, the genomic material provides the potential to produce a particular product, and that in the case of there's a big investment by those people that are in the propagation and cultivation zone, that they invest a lot of money into selecting various plants, cannabis plants, and that they are able to deliver certain attributes, and whether it's flavors, colors, THC, CBD, or other flavonoids, and that then those plants that are selected, they are become mother plants, and that they are cloned to maintain that genetic identity. And that essentially is the intellectual property of that particular, and it's worth a lot of money to those entities that are in that part of the business. Looking at the spikes that Thomas was speaking about in terms of seeing the different metabolomic profiles at different places. Essentially, again, the Natural Health Products Research Alliance, we've worked closely with them, and we've developed essentially a fingerprint that can be laid out to show in multi-dimensions the particular locations of where these spikes would appear, and that the color reflects the intensity of what that spectrum is, and that this can show the differences between cultivars and matrices. This is very important in terms of, again, the essentially the to manage the particular outcomes, and that the metabolomic profile can be very important. That's the difference between a good experience and a bad experience using recreational cannabis. And the other thing is, do you get the intended results? Should it be used in some other application, such as a cosmetic, or and maybe I'll just leave it at that. So this is a table to represent essentially the kind of the rating system that we have designed for when the metabolomic and genomic material are available. And so based on the consistency of production, either at the cultivation or those things which are done at manufacture further downstream, that if you look at, and I hope you can see my cursor as it moves across, that the top line is the nuclear magnetic metabolomic measurement. The column on the left-hand side is the genomic cultivar match. And so then you can see here that, and we've put this together, and we think that this can be an optional grading system almost, that where some clients may particularly say, if it ends up being in a very into a natural health product, that a high level of confidence in the very small variability, that means that the confidence interval is greater than or equal to 98%, and that the genomic cultivar match is also greater than a 98%, that the IQ rating could be 1, and that if it ends up being slipped slightly less to 95 to 98 with respect to the NMR, and that the deviation, there's just a little bit more deviation, and that even though the cultivar match is quite high, it still would be an IQ2, and that wrapping around that it would be IQU should the genomic match be only between 95 and 98. And then, of course, you can go out to the other circle. The idea is that you need to have at least a 95% genomic match and a 95% confidence interval for the NMR to be able to use the Purity IQ logo onto a product, that it is in conformance, a significant lack of variability, or the high level of consistency of genomic match and the NMR. Now, the reason why you'll see the unrated here is because this is going to happen on a lot-to-lot basis, and that there are some products that may not achieve that level for whatever reason, and that there's still a home for it. It could be moved on to other processing, either distillation or blending with something else, and that it's just that the finished just that the finished product label cannot have the Purity IQ logo on it, but it still is due diligence applied by the facility when they find this, and that it ends up being in the unrated zone. So all this to say is that it can be, if you use science and scientific approaches, that you can deliver a management system which gives you all the attributes, whether it's safety and quality or authenticity, and at the end of the day, be able to show due diligence, and that there's certainly value in companies being able to authenticate or differentiate their brands based on genomic and metabolomic data in these high value types of commodities, which cannabis is, and it's challenged because of the fact that there's still a significant amount of black market material that is still out there. So all this to say that this, if you get it right, that you can start off authentic and you can stay authentic. And so I mentioned the Cannabis Authenticity and Purity Standard, that you can check out our website, and for a limited time offer that you can get a coupon code, which is here, to get a digital copy of the standard. You can have a perusal through it and see what it's all about, and maybe get in touch with us at these particular areas. And so thank you for that. Thanks to OFPA, and thanks to presenters and the audience. We're very glad to be here and to share these experiences with you.
All right, thank you very much, Thomas and Frank. This is actually a really dear topic to my heart, just because being an approved auditor, trainer, and consultant with a couple of the different GFSI standards, primarily working with BRCGS and SQF, food authenticity comes up, and especially now with COVID-19 and a lot of focus on the health of staff. There might be even some relaxation almost in industry a little bit, because we're so focused on the whole COVID-19 on things like, we have ingredients and commodities that are hard to get into the country now. And, when we get them in, the cost impact of that, and then also thinking about, if it's all of a sudden so cheap to get, it should make you wonder, why is it, so cheap to get, and that type of thing. So I really do appreciate the presentation. For the fingerprinting technology, I think that's really fascinating that you are able to zone in even to a particular town. That's pretty incredible. I wanted to ask, is that technology that was discussed earlier, is that going to be available in Canada, or is it already available in Canada? Is that something that industry can utilize here? Thomas, you're on mute.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, answering your question, Nadia. Yes, we have, for example, Peter Oram from Workerbee in Canada. He's a beekeeper, and he has adopted NMR in 2019, and he's using NMR for authenticity and purity control in honeys. So his intent is to use the tool as in order to protect the Canadian honeys from adulterated honeys that are coming from outside of Canada. And he's also using the NMR as a sales and marketing tool, because people recognize, if you can show, as I said, people are willing to pay the IBM study, as I have commented before. People are willing to pay a higher premium, a higher price if they trust the product in regards to authenticity. So if he's showing that, and then you can also increase the sales prices of the products that you are selling. So he's also using NMR as a sales and marketing tool. And then also we understand that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, besides the official method that is isotope ratio mass spectrometry, which is now, let's say, roughly 25 years old, and has limitations in regards to measuring C3 type of sugars, which are more and more used to adulterate honey. We understand that the CFIA is also using NMR as a a second, let's say, a pillar and standard. Also here in that case, we understand so far for honey.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Has there been any, or will there be any partnerships with companies or tools like Horizon Scanning or USP Pharmacopoeia to be able to share this kind of information with, authenticity and food fraud with industry? Is there anything like that happening or currently existing?
I mean, in general, we keep hearing, because we are a private company, you have a black box, you have a database that is privately owned. Here we continue to say, and we have mentioned this many times in occasions like this one here, also in meetings. Oh, there is some interference. In meetings that we have. I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so as I said, there is this still this black box image, but we are changing this. So we are communicating again and again that Bruker is also willing and open to collaborate with regulatory bodies and regulatory agencies in several countries to also in that context to give, let's say, to eliminate this kind of black box kind of comments, so that we give the access, simply speaking, to the database and to the validation files, so that a governmental body can also use the data for prosecution cases in case of there is a need to use it in front of court. So in general, we are open to that, and we are already collaborating with some agencies. Okay. In some countries, and so this is very important to state here that we are not hiding anything. We are very open. We can really, but of course we cannot share our database with the industry, with the private sector, because this would give, let's say, chances for the fraudsters to know what we are doing, then to deceive the testing, simply speaking. But with government agencies, we are open and willing to do that. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Are the requirements of CAPS duplicating regulatory requirements?
Thanks, Nadia, for that question. No, it's not. What it is that the every country in the world has regulations with respect to cannabis, or they have nothing. And I think that Canada is unique in that they have something called the Cannabis Act and Regulations, which companies can go to, and there's a lot of direction on how to do this, things like licensing and so on. But in the case of, if you look at the US, that there's no national regulation. It's state by state at best, and there's a lot of inconsistencies between states. So then all this to say is that there may be some parallels with respect to regulatory requirements, and they should be, just like in the case of food, that the regulatory requirements of where you're making the food and where you're selling it should be considered in any kind of a quality management system that you design, and that in the case of cannabis, that's no different. What is important, though, is that there are a lot of things that that industry needs that regulations do not cover, and so then these are things that are required and business decisions that companies make. And a really good example is you have the Safe Food for Canadians regulations, you have the FSMA, you have all kinds of regulations around the world with respect to with the safety of food. But then you look at why is there a need for a global food safety initiative and all the 9 or 10 standards that are there. Auditors like you, Nadia, that do a good job and have to travel all the way around the world to get to places that these days are very difficult. So then, no, it's not a duplication, but it certainly is adding boilerplate to the ability for sites to identify their intellectual property and to protect the incoming ingredients, as well as those things that are going out, and to make sure that they are going out consistently.
Okay, thank you. And how would you combine GFSI with CAPS?
Well, this is a very interesting thing that, and we just talked about regulations in Canada. As soon as you add cannabis to anything, it's like a food, it's no longer food, it's cannabis. And so then I I think that many of the Global Food Safety Initiative benchmark standards are taking those things which are edibles, either as a beverage or as an edible other, like a brownie, and that they're taking their basic management system approach and are using cannabis as an ingredient, a high risk ingredient, but that'd be the way that I would approach it. And of course, in the case of cannabis, whoever is taking this on needs to make sure that they've got the regulations in the background. Again, the licensing and all the security requirements and so on and so forth.
All right, great. Well, thank you again both for your presentation today. It was really insightful and a lot of really good technical information there. We appreciate you taking the time.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Again.
Thank you very much.
I know you're across the world there, so we appreciate you. I don't know what time it is in your area, but we appreciate it.
It's close to 10 p.m., but that's perfect. I really enjoy it, and it's a pleasure. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event today.
It's good to see you again, Thomas.
Yes, good to see you. Yeah.
Bye.
All right, awesome. So
Yes.
we're going to move on to, if we can get the slides back up, that'd be perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so we're just winding down the day here. Going to wrap up and start off some of our closing remarks. So in memory of Clive Kingsbury, our past vice president who passed away suddenly, the association is pleased to have held its annual Clive Kingsbury poster competition this year with a twist, as you saw earlier. The annual poster competition had been converted into a video competition, and the OFPA has invited students from Ontario universities and colleges to participate this year in the contest, showcasing their work in the studies of food science and food safety. And the finalists were invited to attend the spring technical meeting to display their videos and to speak to our members and guests about the importance of their work. Hopefully you had a chance to engage with them during Kumo Space. All of the students who participated today received a free ticket to today's virtual event. To announce our Clive Kingsbury video competition winner, we have, on behalf of our Clive Kingsbury video competition sponsor, Diversey, our president, Joe Myatt, announcing the winners. But before this, Aaron Aboud, our Clive Kingsbury video competition lead, has a few words to share.
There we go. I think I'm off mute now. Sorry about that. Okay, first I want to thank all the students who submitted abstracts during the initial portion of this contest. There were so many great entries here this year. It was very difficult to narrow down to just 3 finalists. Our congratulations go out to all 3 students. Your entries, both abstract and final videos, were fantastic. And I'm sure you have bright careers ahead of you in the food science industry. And I'm not sure where we're going to be a year from now, but I think we can all agree that this was a really entertaining new way to present some relevant information to our industry. I really look forward to this competition again next year. And now I'll pass it back over to Joe to announce this year's winners. Joe.
Thank you, Aaron. So in the number 1 spot, drum roll please, Alyssa Francavilla won first prize, $500 for her video presentation on COVID on high touch services at food retailers. Number 2 to Shala Gaba on her video presentation on Can Rosemary act as a food preservative, winning $200. And Shala's from Centennial College. Number 3 to Grace Lee, University of Guelph, on antivirulence properties of protein hydrolysates against Listeria monocytogenes, and winning $100. So thank you all to the students. It was awesome and great job. I'm just going to mention here, probably good opportunity here. We're going to further build upon our YouTube channel where we housed the student videos. We're going to be launching at some point in this year. We're not really sure when, but we are working on a podcast channel for the Ontario Food Protection Association, and it's going to be called Food Safety Now. And my colleague who called away today on business, Brett Dooley, is heading that up. And I'm working with him on it as well. So that's going to be exciting. So hopefully you'll subscribe to that channel, and we'll let you know through our various social media channels when that becomes available. So thank you all, and back over to Nadia.
All right, very good. And congratulations to our video competition winners. And I agree, Erin, it was a really unique way of presenting it. And we're really glad that we were able to continue with that part of our spring event that normally happens. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next, we're going to have our OFPA Kumo Space Food Safety Scavenger Hunt winners. So we hope that you enjoyed the scavenger hunt. We were trying to make things a little bit fun, but while educating you about our sponsors as well as the OFPA. So we do have some of our winners here. I'm going to announce our first prize winner is winning a $150 gift card to Two Sisters Vineyard and Winery located in Niagara. The winner is Christy Warner. The second prize winner is for a $100 gift card to Fulton's Maple Farm located in Pakenham, Ontario. The winner is Jonathan Basha. And our third prize winner wins a $50 gift card to Heritage Bee located in Walmart, Ontario. And the winner is Britta Paul. So congratulations to all of our winners. We know that some of the questions were a little bit quote unquote tricky, but you were able to successfully answer them. And we thank everyone for participating in the scavenger hunt. We will be reaching out to all of our winners again today for shipping information to either send that directly to your to an address or by email. Next slide, please. So this year, we will be bringing you 2 more events, and our hope is to have these events in person. However, this is obviously going to be dependent on how this pandemic progresses. Our next event will be the 2021 OFPA Social Networking Mixer. The planning committee is led by myself, Gwen Sisker, and Board of Director Erin Aboud and Megan Reddy. This event was to be launched in 2020. Due to COVID-19, it was canceled. As the lead for the OFPA Social Networking Mixer, I'm excited to announce this new event. It is one of the best ways to get out and meet new people in a community of like-minded professionals. The business casual event will be held, we hope, in person in September in the evening from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's going to be an after work hours event. It's going to allow you the opportunity to make some new connections, share ideas, learn from others, discover new opportunities, network with peers and industry colleagues. There will be limited exhibit and sponsorship opportunities at this event. So right now we're still in the planning phases. So please save the dates, September 18th and 30th. And we hope to see you there, in person for drinks and hors d'oeuvres. Our last event of the year that we're planning for will be our 2021 Fall Food Safety Symposium and Annual General Meeting. The Fall Planning Committee, led by myself and Board of Directors Andrew Clark, Erin Aboud, and Paul Demerin, we will be hosting our annual Fall Food Safety Symposium and Annual General Meeting on November 18th. And we are excited to announce that this event is going to be a bit different. We will be bringing global international award-winning speakers to you right here in Ontario. We have exciting and relevant topics that we're going to be covering that you don't want to miss. Some topics and speakers are going to include Erica Sheward, Director, Global Food Safety Initiative, GFSI. The topic is GFSI Race to the Top, an overview and progression. We will be having a panel discussion with the GFSI standards and GRMA. What are the expectations for the next version? When will this take effect? And lastly, some common NCs and expected solutions. The panelists include BRCGS, Jessica Burke, Delivery Partner Relationship Manager, SQF, Leanne Chuboff, Vice President for Technical Affairs, Canada Gap, Heather Gale, Executive Director, GRMA, Alan Schultz, Executive Director, Global Gap, Rebecca Anderson, Technical Key Account Manager, FSSC, Jacqueline Silly, North America Representative. So if you are a GFSI certified site, a really great opportunity to learn from them directly. We also will have Gordon Hayburn, Vice President from Food Safety Trophy Foods, having a discussion on risk assessments for food safety management systems and GFSI benchmark standards. A second panel discussion on label claims, facts and fiction. Speakers on that panel will be from Kosher, Richard Rapkin, Managing Director from the Kashrut Council, non-GMO speaker, that's still to be confirmed, organic speaker from EcoCert, that speaker to be confirmed, gluten-free, Melissa Secord, National Executive Director from the Canadian Celiac Association, and for halal, Sabir Ali, the Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of Canada, IFANCC. To end off the day, our plan is to have a presentation for Loblaws Supplier Standard Expectations by Andrew Clark, the Senior Director for Loblaws. We also will be having our silent auction running, so stay tuned for details for that on our website. Registration will be opening up soon for both events. Again, we are still in the planning phases, so please follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and check out our website for details. Regardless of if we are in person or virtual, both events will go ahead. At this point, it's we're hoping for in person, but we are planning in the event that we have to run virtually. So stay tuned and keep up to date on our social media platforms. Next slide, please. So as mentioned already by Joe, I don't know if you'll have anything additional to add on the Food Safety Now podcast, but we are introducing, this is new to the OFPA and we're really excited about it. Joe, did you have anything additional to add?
No, you've got it.
All right. Okay, so look forward to that. And again, check out our website to find more details about how that's going to work for the OFPA. Next slide, please. So as mentioned throughout the day, as a non-for-profit, COVID-19 has tremendous impact on our organization. And we would really like to thank those who donated to the organization through our spring event. We raised $900 to support Ontario, which is absolutely incredible. We had no idea that this would happen, but we're not surprised because our industry is, that caring and giving. So again, we just wanted to thank you for your donations, and it does help the organization to thrive. Next slide, thank you. So in closing, we hope that you've enjoyed today's meeting. Given the current situation, we really felt it was important to continue to deliver to our members. We'd like to say thank you to all of our speakers today, Debbie Bruce, Michael Abbott, Angela O'Donovan, Julia Mitubi, Moses Akinabe, Doug Alexander, Jay Holmes, Thomas Spengler, and Frank Masong. And to our sponsors, our diamond sponsor, 3M, platinum sponsor, Sanitation Pros, the Clive Kingsbury video competition sponsor, Diversity, and our gold sponsors, Lori Insurance Group, Sterilex, Microsyntax, Biorad, SC Johnson, and Sandy Mark. Without you, we would have not been able to make this event successful. So thank you again. And we would also like to thank Presentations to Go for supporting us in our virtual platform, Zoom, for a second time. Also to thank our OFPA administrator, Denise Horseman, and our student volunteer, Lucas Narine. In addition, our members for attending, and for those of you that are non-members attending today, I really encourage you to become a member and take advantage of our member benefits, including event discounts. I would also ask members to share the OFPA within the industry, colleagues that you have, just so that we can grow our organization. If you have not had an opportunity to peruse our newly relaunched website, I encourage you to check that out. If you are a member, please sign in and check out our members only area. Stay up to date and current also by following us on our social media platforms. Again, those are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We will also be sending out a survey for feedback on the event. Please complete the survey. Let us know your honest feedback so we can keep doing what you enjoy and improve where we can. The first 2 to complete will win admission to our social networking mixer and fall events. Lastly, but certainly not least, our spring planning committee led by our treasurer, Gwen Sisker, Aaron Aboud, and our video competition lead, board of directors, Megan Ruddy, and Lori Sawyer, and myself. So thank you again. Please continue to stay safe, and I hope to see you in person at our next event, the OFPA Social Networking Mixer in September. If I can just ask, this is the end of the event, but we really would like to have a group picture. So for those of you who are willing, if you can turn on your cameras and your video, we have some virtual photographers on our team. So if we can do that, that would be very, very much appreciated. So we can get a group shot.
We're all like fixing their hair. And
I know. Fix your mic, all kinds of stuff. Okay.